If you could go to one place in Italy, where would it be?
Domino's. Matter of fact, I need cannolis. Back out the cannolis and all that. Cannolis is mandatory.
What's good? Spiders should be here, and today we're finally talking about the base department's head receptionist and Alpha's uncle, Dante. No, not you. Give me the real Dante. Dante is an ignition and kind of fire attacker Omniframe, arriving in the upcoming Lamento di Fantasia, Devil May Cry 5, and Punishing Ray Raven collab update. In this video guide, I'll cover his playstyle rotations, rank upgrades, weapons, builds and team setups, his cub, and my pull and build recommendations. I'll also cover his entire moveset near the end of the video. And please check the pinned comment down below for any updates or corrections because mistakes can happen, and timestamps will be provided as usual. And if you find this video helpful, drop a like, subscribe for more guides, check out my Twitch, and share those who are interested in Dante or the Devil May Cry collab. And I'll try to answer any questions in the comments when I got time. Alright, let's get started before Dante's got to attend Patty's birthday party. As a DMC5 character, Dante has a lot of possible moves to perform. I'll cover his kit at a basic level for his meta-relevant moves with the TLDR, and then cover his meta rotations for those who don't care about his entire weapons armory. Like, how in the world does this guy have more weapons than Devil May Cry 5? But at the end of the video, I'll cover the rest of his moveset for more in-depth Michael Jackson gamers out there. Of course, I'll have timestamps for each section for your convenience. So Dante starts in his normal human state, and like Virgil, Lucia Power Oath, or Hanyang Soul's Tune, he has white orbs indicating how many orb pings he has, as seen on the second row of roses here. For those who haven't played PGR, these orbs can be obtained from basic attacking or being off-field for a while. He has 4 weapons that he can select from by tapping the respective orb, so the red orb is Devil's Sword Dante, which is also his starting orb, the blue orb is the Balrog, which is his most used weapon, and the yellow orb is Dr. Faust, which is his hat. He also has a gun or firearm weapon with its own dedicated button, and he also has a dedicated jump button used for specific attacks or combos, which I'll cover later. Swing an orb when using an ability with tapping it twice, chaining it into a combo to fill up the gauge. Once the gauge is full, you can hold down basic attack to build stacks and gain ultimate energy. Once you got your ult, you can tap it, and you have a choice of 3 different attacks to hold and consume the gauge. So the red orb is the Sin Devil Trigger Advent, the blue orb is a Sin Devil Trigger Loose, and the yellow orb is a Sin Devil Trigger Demolition, but that will need full gauge. And this basically continues to build stacks and ignition charges, and it's capped at 1,000 or 20 ignition charges. Afterwards, you can tap ultimate and use the judgment finisher, swapping back to human state and consuming the stacks to increase the ult damage. So first you want to start by swapping in, and then tapping an orb to select your weapon. Usually it's the blue orb for ignition. You want to tap it twice to fill up the gauge. Then you want to hold basic attack to consume the gauge for stacks and ultimate energy. And then mid-air, you want to tap ult to enter the Sin Devil Trigger ult form. Hold red until you have about 1,000 stacks, which is indicated on the gauge there. Then afterwards, tap ultimate for the Judgment ult finisher. Now this is the bare essential for rotations, so let's jump into some meta team rotations for each move. We're going to start with Vera and use a 3-ping blue here. Then we're going to swap into Nanami for her ignition rotation, so we'll tap an orb ping to fill up her gauge. Then hold yellow until the ultimate is up. Use the ultimate finisher. Now for the first rotation, we will swap off, but every Nanami rotation afterwards, we'll repeat this again for 2 Nanami ults before swapping out. Now we'll swap into Dante, tap blue to switch to its weapon, tap blue twice to fill up the gauge, hold basic attack, ult while midair, hold red until we get the 1,000 stacks, and we'll use the ultimate finisher. And basically, we're going to repeat this rotation again. Once you finish the second ultimate finisher, use the yellow orb and swap off. Next we'll swap into Vera to do her 1 core ult rotation. 3-ping and hold basic attack to plunge. Tap ultimate. Use red pings until the red gauge is full. Hold basic attack to consume that gauge. And then use the ult finisher. And then we'll swap into Nanami to do her double ult rotation now. So same thing here, we'll consume some of the gauge, use ultimate finisher, and then do it again. Now note, without deadline timing on Dante, you may need to be on field with Nanami a bit longer, so filling the gauge to full to help maintain enough orbs for Dante when he swaps back in. And that's pretty much the ignition rotation. As for the fire rotation, Dante is an okay budget fire attacker at best, but definitely not needed when you got fire units like Vera, Lucia, or Watanabe. But if you're insistent on using him in the fire team, here's an example rotation. Note that the Vera build here is her Verkati to allow for 2 ultimates, since 4-piece Shakespeare is now handled by Dante and his QTEs. So we're going to start with Dante here, and then swap into Watanabe or Nanami Ignition from earlier. Use a 3-ping on Watanabe, tap ult, hold release dodge and basic attack, spam the 3 blaze orbs, basically the same rotation as Watanabe before. then you can tap ult for the finisher. If you want, you could do 2 rotations, or you can swap into Vera. So you can do a 3 ping here. We'll basic attack to plunge, tap ult. Again, we're going to use those red pings until the red gauge is full. We'll basic attack to consume all that gauge. And then we're going to ult. And basically, we're going to repeat this rotation again. And once you do the second ult finisher, you can finally swap it to Dante. So you do 2 red here. We'll basic attack, ult, hold red until we have the 1000 stacks. Use the ultimate finisher. And then we can tap the yellow orb and swap off. So, like Virgil, let me quickly explain how to get copies of Dante. DMC characters will not have pancake skulls. Instead, you will need to pull for them in their limited time banners. And Devil May Cry character, cub, and weapons all have different currency, so you'll need to convert black cards into specific banner currencies that you need, but the conversion is 1-to-1. Basically, it means that you can't really use the gold construct tickets, so keep those for the next S rank, I guess. Now note that pulls are discounted only for characters, so each character costs 175 tickets instead of the 250 black card equivalent for a single pull. So for a full 60 pity, that's 10,500 DMC construct tickets or black cards instead of the regular 15,000. And note that weapons and cubs are not discounted, so they'll still be the full 250 basically black cards and all have different currency, so keep that in mind. DMC has a pull 1 get 1 free offer, and you get this offer twice for each DMC character. Now you get 1 free copy of Dante from just completing the story, and after you get him from there, you can get him SS3 if you pull 1 copy. And afterwards, you'll grab the weapon or cub for the meta baseline, and afterwards you can choose to pull Dante again to get him to SS, and the pull 1 get 1 free offer will expire. For rank upgrades, note that we will automatically get him to SS3 by pulling for him once. So at S5, triggers available QTEs when using the blue orb plus hold basic attack with a full gauge, using the red orb plus hold basic attack with the full gauge, using the yellow orb, or when using any of the ultimates. As for its SS, after using his ultimate finisher and swapping off, he does off-field fire damage for a brief period. Its red, blue, and yellow orbs also do more damage in the Sin Devil trigger ult state. At SS3, he significantly increases the damage of his QTE after using his ultimate finisher, and the orb damage in human form is increased, and the damage of the hold basic attack with full gauge is also increased. And at SS, he basically does more off-field damage, and his ultimate damage multiplier is increased. So for my rank recommendations TLDR, SS3 should be the minimum investment for most players and free to play. It allows for proper damage and is very playable and meta viable. SS and above further improves his ultimate finisher, so for spenders, this is your stopping point. But his weapon is a higher priority than his SS, so let's cover that next. Now for the weapons and resonance, the 5-star weapon is gained for free when obtaining Dante, but is Dante locked as a 6-star weapon? Well, kinda. The 5-star weapon is perfectly fine rotation-wise for the fire team, but for ignition, you will be out of orbs by the second rotation with the 5-star weapon. That's because the 6-star weapon allows for extra signal orbs and deadline timing as resonance. TLDR, if you can't afford the 6-star weapon, the 5-star weapon is playable, and the 6-star weapon is highly recommended for the double ult rotation as the main DPS in ignition. Deadline timing also makes the double ult rotation much more comfy. Without it, you'll need to spend a bit more on-field time with Nanami to have enough orbs, but it is doable. And if you have the extra resonances, Afterglow and Matrix Lightning will be your next priorities. Now let's go over team setup and builds, starting with the ignition team. Dante should be the leader here, and the starter is usually the Da Vinci Blotter Amplifier, so in this case, Vera. Like Virgil, Dante doesn't have a signature set, so Dante's primary 4-piece set will always be 4-piece Shakespeare. For the 2-piece, he'll be running 2-piece Caudy for the double ult rotation, harmonize either Caudy or Herschel for the ignition damage buff. Otherwise, if opting for a single rotation or pain cage, 2-piece Caudy can be replaced with any 2-piece fire and attack damage set like 2-piece Heraclitus, 2-piece Elizabeth, or 2-piece Herver. For resonance, you want to grab attack on the top slot and ultimate or signature move on the bottom slot. Hypertune the bottom row first and then the top, where the Infinitas Awaken is usually just the red orb since that's its default orb. Now for Anonymous Star Trail, you want to run 4-piece Herschel and 2-piece Einstein with 2-piece Caudy harmonized. For resonance, class passive is now preferred since she's the sub DPS here, but ultimate is completely fine if you don't have the resources, especially if running Caudy harmonized. And finally, for Vera Garavor, she'll be running her 4-piece Da Vinci, 2-piece Guinevere with Guinevere harmonized, and for resonance, make sure that she has class passive here. Even though Dante excels and specializes in the Ignition team, he can work for the Fire team if you don't have Lucia Pyro Oath. You can use the same team as Ignition here. Dante should be the starter and Vera is the leader. For Dante, just make sure that he has the 2-piece attack and fire damage bonus set, so 2-piece Heraclitus, 2-piece Elizabeth, or 2-piece Herver. And harmonization can be Alpha Nose for the increased fire damage. Vera will be running her 4-piece Herver and 2-piece Caudy with 2-piece Guinevere harmonized. That way she can do her double O rotation and carry more for the Fire team. And for Resonance, make sure that you have plus 15 attack and ultimate or signature move for her. And finally, Nanami will be running a 4-piece Da Vinci with 2-piece Herschel and 2-piece Einstein, and she'll have classical resonance here to support the team. Or you can run Watanabe on 4-piece Alphanos and 4-piece Da Vinci, and he'll also be on classical here. Now without Nanami or Watanabe, you can run 4-piece Da Vinci and 2-piece Einstein on Bridget, and without Vera Garavor, you can run Liv Imperial or Ishmael with 4-piece Da Vinci and 2-piece Guinevere, harmonized 2-piece Guinevere. Now let's cover Dante's pet or cub, his bike, the Cavalier. It's needed to do all of his biking move combos, so unlike Virgil's blade cub or pet, we'll need to pull for it in order to do all of Dante's bike movesets. Its active skill is basically some grouping and damage, and its passive skill increases the ultimate base damage by 125%, which is his main damage source. And when tapping the pet button, even without charges, it triggers his Cavalier bike moveset, where he's able to juggle enemies mid-air basically indefinitely with his bike. So is it worth pulling? Well, it's a nice pet that mostly exists for the ult damage buff and bike combos, and if you're playing purely for Dante's moveset and don't care about the meta, you can opt for the cub over the weapon. Otherwise, I still prioritize the weapon for meta players. Like Virgil, I'll go through all the moves for Dante so you style gamers can cook whatever you guys want to cook, but yeah, it's time to play. Starting with the red orb combos, the Devil's Sword Dante combo is a 4-hit basic attack string with swords at the end. Tapping red will perform the Stinger for a forward stab. Tapping red twice will perform the Million Stab. And holding red will perform Overdrive for some sword waves. Next, if you tap red in mid-air, you'll perform the Helmbreaker Airborne Slam. Note that all of these attacks will fill up the gauge, so once you have some gauge, you can hold down basic attack to perform the Dance Macabre, which does some rapid sword swings, and if the gauge is full, it'll consume it to pull in enemies, and it gives ult energy and up to 600 stacks. Note that this has interrupt and damage reduction during the animation, but you can't use the ultimate until the attack is finished. For the blue orb combos, the Balrog combo is just tapping basic attack to punch with some swords, I guess. The Heavy Jolt is tapping blue to punch forward with some swords. The Fly Dragon is tapping blue twice to do the uppercut with some swords. And holding down blue will do the Break Spiral, which is breakdancing with swords. And finally, Firestorm is tapping blue mid-air to do airborne attacks with swords. Now holding down basic attack will perform the Sin Rising Dragon, which charges an uppercut with some swords, and this will consume the gauge again to pull in enemies and gives stacks up to 600, and it does ignition damage and gives ignition charges as well, but note that it has interrupt and damage reduction during the animation, but you can't use the ultimate until the attack is finished. Next up we have Dr. Foss or the Yellow Orb combos. Tapping the Yellow Orb will trigger Red Hot Knight, which does an AoE Meteor Storm that does fire damage, and you can hold down the Yellow Orb to consume White Orbs to fill up the gauge, and then release it to consume the gauge and create an AoE Meteor Storm that again can pull in enemies doing fire damage. Next up we have the Set Hat and Hat trick. So you tap yellow mid-air, it'll throw out his hat, dealing fire damage and filling up the gauge, and you can tap it again to return the hat and fill the gauge to full. Next up is his Royal Guard attack, which is basically holding dodge and standing still, and it continuously consumes dodge gauge in order to block all incoming attacks, and releasing it will perform a counterattack with a perfectly timed one triggering a perfect counter. Dante has 3 unique attacks. The first is a permanent jump button on the first orb slot, the second is tapping the core passive bar or tapping G on PC, and third is his firearm button. Now if you're locked onto a target and you hold dodge while moving forward, you'll teleport to the enemy, and now we'll start with the jump button. So tapping jump is just, well, a jump, but he does have the ability to double jump. Tapping jump and basic with the Balrog equip performs friction, which is a downward strike, and holding jump will perform an upward thrust. Now tapping G or the core passive bar while standing still will summon swords to lift the target airborne, and moving while tapping G or the core passive bar will let the swords home in onto a target. And you can also hold the core passive bar or G mid-air to throw a rose. Next up for the firearm button, if you have the blue or Balrog equipped, you'll be shooting a shotgun. You can fire this mid-air or while moving. And with the red orb, Devil's Sword Dante equipped, you'll be firing with his dual pistols. Again, you can fire while moving or mid-air, and if you move mid-air while spamming the pistols, you will perform raining bullets. Now for the ult form, Sin Devil Trigger, he basically has his own basic attack combo. Pressing the first orb will launch fireballs. If you have 800 stacks or higher, you can do the Sin Devil Trigger Judgment ult finisher. Also note, if you're holding ult, you can do the finishing move, which is a shorter burst damage. And of course, there's the Sin Devil Trigger Advent and Sin Devil Trigger Loose. The yellow orb is a Sin Devil Trigger Demolition, but that will need full gauge. And also, when tapping G in the ult form, you will change back into human form. Not really super useful, but there's the option, I guess. And hopefully, this helps you guys design your own Dante combos, because I'm about to crash out if I explain any more things. Finally, for my pull and build recommendations, well, we get Dante for free, so why not build him? Dante will be the premier Ignition attacker going forward when invested, but not absolutely necessary, since of course, Nanami Star Trail once again proves why she's the future PGR, being able to solo Ignition Warzone by herself with deadline timing if needed. Still, swapping between the whole team with Vera Garivore should net a superior score since both Nanami and Dante do good damage, which unfortunately can't be said about the other Nana9 teams. Lightning. Sorry about that. Dante is technically capable of being a decent fire attacker, but I really wouldn't recommend it if you already have Vera Garivore and Lucia Power Oath, since they serve as a much better fire DPS and can function without Dante already in fire teams. But if you want to use Dante in fire, you would need him to be a higher rank than Pyro Oath to be comparable. Lucia just has more potential rotations, especially at SS3 or higher. Vera herself is also super strong as fire unit even at a lower baseline SS, and again, like Selena is needed for Glacio, Lucia will still be needed for Plasma, etc, etc. It's also highly recommended to at least get Dante's weapon for the multiple rotations. The pet is just a nice damage buff mainly, and for more copies, it's similar to Virgil's recommendations. If you're going for a higher ranking hero plus Warzone or Ultimate Pancage, you'll want him to deal with Ignition of fixed zones and future Ignition Pancage bosses, although we don't have one yet, and if it's anything like the other fixed bosses, you may be able to just use another fixed element and get similar results. Otherwise, you can save your pulls for future S-rank Alpha frames. And if anything, just get them for the male Riz and dance moves. Okay, maybe not for the dance moves. And yeah, thanks for watching the video. I hope you guys found it helpful because I'm Be Real Chief. I have never crashed out so hard making such detailed guides for the two most complex characters that have ever been put out in no less than the span of a month. But anyways, I just want to update in the video that by the time the update drops, I will be flying to Guangzhou, China to attend Kuro Fest, so expect a vlog in the near future. I'll be busy with family vacays after that trip, but I will try to get the Bianca guide out before her release. Anyways, join the Discord to get notified for video guides and streams, or just ask questions in chat. Join me on Twitch whenever I get back and I'm finally free. Drop a like if you found this video helpful, a dislike if you didn't, subscribe for more guides for future characters, and a special thank you to my friend Hermit for helping me with both the Virgil and Dante movesets, because I'm not knowledgeable enough about DMC5, so you have him to thank for me being able to do the motivational Virgil combo. Thank you to my editor Psyche and my sister for their hard work, especially in such a tight schedule, and my YouTube members and Twitch subscribers and all the viewers for the support. But anyways, take care, never spend out of your own means, good luck on your pulls, and peace late homies.